Yezid Sayigh is a senior fellow at the Malcolm H. Kerr Carnegie Middle East Center. He's joining us live now from London. Sir, thank you very much indeed for being with us. As we've been pointing out, this is an agreement that's been reached between Israel and Lebanon, and it involves a ceasefire which is connected to Hezbollah. What do you think, in your assessment, is going to stop this from actually holding together?
Well, I think that the agreement probably will hold. The most critical phase is the immediate period where the risks, I think, are highest, but at the same time, both sides appear to have the reasons of their own to abide by it. So I think what could, in the slightly longer term, i.e. in the course of the coming 60 days or just after, what could derail things is the politics, the political calculations. And here I'm thinking specifically of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I mean, it's somewhat surprising, or at least it's something we should wonder about, just why he's accepted the ceasefire deal and carried his cabinet along with him, his far-right partners along with him, because Israel was in a dominant position. Israeli public opinion, according to the latest polls, is very deeply divided. About a third support the deal, about a third exactly oppose the ceasefire, and almost one third are undecided, which points to, only one third that is unequivocally in support of a ceasefire on the Lebanese border. So why then did Netanyahu go ahead? And I have to wonder whether this had to do with what he's hearing from U.S. President-elect Donald Trump and his camp, whether basically Trump wants this particular part of the war done and out of the way before he assumes office. That suggests, therefore, that if Netanyahu is indeed under any kind of political pressure, he feels awkward, then he might be quick to seize any excuse to reopen hostilities with Hezbollah in Lebanon. I don't think that's something he'll do straight away, but the Israelis are going to be monitoring implementation very aggressively. And I think if Netanyahu sees political gain to disrupt the ceasefire agreement, then he'll go there. But again, if Trump wants the ceasefire, then I think Netanyahu will also have to think twice before disrupting.
I want to ask you what you think Benjamin Netanyahu's focus is going to be now if the pressure is on him not to reopen the conflict with Hezbollah across the border with Lebanon.
Well, of course, everything now points back to Gaza, where the Israeli military operation has never ceased, where a ceasefire agreement is, I suspect, never going to happen, where the current political profile of the Israeli government, which is sort of right and far right, precludes any kind of deal, not simply with Hamas over Gaza, but even with the Palestinian Authority, with which the United States, the UK, the European Union, etc., deal constantly. A deal that would bring the Palestinian Authority back to govern Gaza. The Israeli government is completely opposed to that as well, leaving the Israeli government with no clear end goal for Gaza, no strategy for achieving a durable political settlement for Gaza, and with ongoing military operations in northern Gaza, clearing hundreds of thousands of people out, presumably to achieve permanent Israeli security control and potentially Israeli Jewish settlement in northern Gaza. So this is not something that's, I think, tenable or durable. And it's also a problem because in domestic Israeli politics, this is one thing that has become a burden on Netanyahu. The Israeli public is tired of the Gaza war. And so Netanyahu, having achieved major successes against Hezbollah and now brought a ceasefire into effect, is left with Gaza hanging around his neck, where he has no good options. He either loses his far-right partners if he agrees anything that brings a genuine ceasefire to Gaza, or he ends up with a perpetual war, low-intensity war in Gaza. So this is partly why I think that at a certain moment, if he feels that this is starting to erode his political standing and leave him liable to losing office and therefore standing up to, facing criminal charges on corruption and investigation into the failures of 7 October, he may again seek some form of escalation, if not in Gaza, then potentially in Lebanon, or as he has said, Israel is now free to escalate against Iran. A lot of brave talk, and I think it's bravado, which won't be followed up with military action
I want
against
to
Iran.
ask you, forgive me for
Yes, he
interrupting you,
will
but I
still
do want
play
to
this
ask you
game.
about your opinion about what the future might hold for Lebanon. We've heard from the Lebanese Prime Minister and the Speaker of the Lebanese Parliament both calling for cohesion and solidarity within Lebanon. But of course, Lebanon's politically very unstable, but also there are significant divisions with regard to the position of Hezbollah. What's your assessment of what the future holds for Lebanon?
Yes, it's a central question here. And, well, Hezbollah has been diminished. There is no question about that. In particular, vis-a-vis Israel, its remaining military capability is still sufficient to make it a major player inside Lebanon, and it will not be disarmed anytime soon. That said, it will have to cede on things like selecting a new president, and maybe handing over influence in areas like the airport and the seaport. It will be, I think, diminished politically, but this will be a gradual process. What is interesting here is that the Speaker of Parliament, the other Shia leader, Nabih Berri, who has been pushing really hard for the ceasefire agreement, will gain. He will gain both within the formal political system. He will probably gain within the Shia community, where there's a big reconstruction bill, and it's not clear that Hezbollah can channel Iranian money, let alone sufficient Iranian money, to rebuild shops and businesses and livelihoods and so on among the Shia community. And this again points to a greater role for the Lebanese state, where Speaker of House Nabih Berri will play a disproportionate role compared to Hezbollah. So on several levels, I think Hezbollah will be diminished but not out. Nabih Berri will strengthen his hand. And I think we'll see probably incremental movement towards a different kind of Lebanese understanding. Hezbollah's new leader, Naim Qasim, pointed to the agreement, the Taif agreement, brokered by Saudi Arabia over 30 years ago, which restored a certain kind of sectarian balance within Lebanon. And this means that Hezbollah is recognizing the need to reestablish some kind of sectarian consensus. And so it will have to give various concessions and strike a reconciliatory tone.
Yezid Sayigh, we appreciate you being with us. Thank you very much indeed. I want to bring in